Hey, it's me, Uncle Ricky. Let's talk about Russia. Seems that recently the Wagner group, the state sponsored private mercenary group that Russia has been so proud of, that Putin has kind of advertised as his personal army, uh, that has represented Russian interests in places like Syria without violating international agreements, because it's quote unquote a private mercenary group um, that has been active in Russia. I mean, in African countries, promoting Russian interests, protecting Russian interests, and according to the UN and several other verifiable, legitimate sources, committed all kinds of atrocities. But again, because it's a private company, it doesn't have anything to do with Russia. But it seems that Russia has put the Wagner Group into Ukraine, and it seems that the Wagner Group mercenaries, which are mostly the whole organization is composed of uh, criminals and, let's say, rejects from the normal Russian military. Um, they've been fighting better than the Russian army, the actual national military army. But that does not make a happy formula, because it seems that recently the group's leader, Prigozhin, who is a Russian oligarch, former hot dog manufacturer, and supposedly a good friend of Putin's, decided that he had had enough of being shortchanged by the Russian Defense Ministry headed by what is this guy's name? Shoigu. And he was tired of his mercenaries taking the brunt of the fighting and being shortchanged on food and supplies. And according to him, being fired upon by the regular Russian military. So now you're getting paid by the country that you're supposed to be helping win a war, and their own people shoot at you and kill your troops. So what does Prigozhin do? He marches on Moscow in an apparent attempt to have an armed coup. Now, whether he wanted to displace Putin or displace Shoigu, it was an obvious mutiny. And even though Putin is supposed to be the ultimate strongman, and he came out and did what all strong men do, he, threatened to rain down death and hell and damnation upon Prigozhin and anybody that was with him. And as soon as he said that, him and Shoigu apparently just disappeared. Now, how did all of this end? The country of Belarus, whose leader supposedly is another good friend of Putin's, stepped in and I guess negotiated a truce, a peace treaty or whatever. And the outcome was that the Wagner mercenaries would return to their fighting positions in Ukraine, which I'm pretty sure really didn't thrill a whole lot of them. And Prigozhin said that he would take exile in Belarus. Maybe because, he knew that he couldn't stay in Russia because Putin was going to get him. Point blank, end of discussion. Now, this puts Russia in a bit of a flux, because now the strongman, the president dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin, his whole power base has been disrupted. He can no longer claim that he is the ultimate authority. He can no longer claim that he is, you know, the one and only, because here we go. His buddy, his pal, Prigozhin, took 25,000 mercenaries and almost took Moscow. Now, you know, there's back and forth about whether this was planned to be a full coup, because, you know, they're going back analyzing speeches and appearances by other prominent Russian generals to see, you know, to try to figure out if they were affiliated or if they weren't affiliated, or if they were just waiting on the sidelines to see which way things went. But in typical Russian tradition, you know, set up by Stalin and Khrushchev and Brezhnev, anything like this, there's going to be some military people falling out of hospital windows unexpectedly. Now, the thing with Prigozhin is that nobody can figure out what was on his mind. Now, how does this affect the international stance that Russia has? Well, one, you know, Russia's already in deep kimchi with NATO, because the NATO countries look at the attack on Ukraine as just a warm-up for an attack on a NATO country, which very well could lead us into World War III because of the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance. But what the immediate impact is, you know, Russia, China, India, Brazil, Venezuela, all of them have formed kind of a pact. Supposedly it's only an economic pact to challenge the US dollar and, you know, deflate or dethrone the US currency as the international standard. You know, put an end to things like oil being only paid for in US dollars. And they've had some success with this. It also has been allowing them to work deals, especially like in Africa, with poor African countries that are looking for a savior. And, you know, it allows them to colonize and, I guess, re-educate some people like they always do when they get the opportunity. But it also, this Russian thing, because they're all strongman countries, if the leader looks weak, then it makes the alliance look weak. And China especially is become very wary of how it's going to deal with Russia, because they got big plans. And they need Russia to be strong to basically keep the West at bay while they start to colonize and make war on the Pacific Rim, Asia, you know. But much like the Japanese thought they could do back during World War II. I guess you could say history's kind of repeating itself. But anyway, this alliance, because of the mutiny, because of the instability in Russia, I'm not gonna say it's on hold, but it's not walking like it did walk. There's a little limp in it. You know, whether that turns into being crippled, we got to see what develops in Russia. The other side is right here in America. I'm sure that, you know, many people are kind of happy to see what's going on, but there is a group that's not happy, and that's the far-right Republican MAGA nuts that have been supporting Putin, that was saying that the war in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, Russia was right for what they were doing and Putin is the answer, and that we shouldn't be sending money to Ukraine, we should be supporting Russia all the way. How does that make them look? Well, it probably makes them look like the fools that they are, because it was all just political showmanship. It was one fascist group supporting another fascist group, trying to hold them up as an example of the power that fascism, authoritarian rule can project. And they've been eating their words because Ukraine has its problems, just like any other country. We in the United States have our own problems. But Ukraine, there's no way militarily, even with the, the input of arms from most of the Western nations, most of the nations that try to practice democracy, at least on the surface, have been putting into the Ukraine. Their army was not supposed to be able to hold off the Russian army. So either the Ukrainians are a lot better than we thought they were, which probably is true, or the Russians are a lot worse than they said they were, which is obviously true. So the impact, the international impact, the domestic impact is basically Putin getting his butt kicked on all different levels, and people supporting Putin are scrambling to either back away from the things they've been saying or find a new strong man to claim. And all I got to say to that is because, fascists gonna do what fascists do, because fascism is probably one of the most predictable isms there is. Well, MAGA Nation, there's always Kim Jong-il. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, God bless, peace out, see you when I see you, from Uncle Ricky at Uncle Ricky's house. Hi, yep, it's me. This is the end of another episode of Uncle Ricky. I hope you enjoyed it. Look, I enjoy doing this, but I need your help. I don't want your money. I just want you to, hit like, subscribe, comment, share, and help me keep doing what I'm doing. And that's bringing the truth to you. So as always, peace out and God bless. And have a great day from Uncle Ricky at Uncle Ricky's house.